All right, what's going on, everybody? In today's video, we're going to be building a full modern responsive website from scratch, and then we're also going to be deploying this website to Firebase hosting. And we're also going to be using Cloud Firestore to go ahead and submit our contact data from our form down here to Firebase and make it act like a real contact form where the data actually goes somewhere. We'll get a nice submit message saying that they received our request and so forth. Okay. So let me briefly run through the site here really quick. So we are making this for a site called NewBiz. Now this is not a real business. This is something I actually found online as a UI UX template or a design, and I went ahead and created it into a real website here for this video. Now we are using smooth scroll, so if I click on any of these sections here, if I click on the contact us for example, it'll smooth scroll down to the contact form, and then if I click on home, it'll smooth scroll all the way back to the top. Okay, so starting off here at the very top, we have our hero section with a basic headline, some call to action buttons, and a picture of, just one of these. I don't even know what you would really call these, but they're very popular nowadays, and it's actually something from Undraw, which has a lot of these cool illustrations that you can use in your site, and I thought this was really cool that they implemented these into this UI UX, and I just seen these a lot, and I think they're just really cool. So moving on here, we have the about section here. So for this section here, or for this about section, it is all dummy data. For the most part of this website, the content will reflect a media company that does websites, videography, and photography, and that sort of stuff. But for the about section here, I just left it as a dummy data as I didn't want to go through and actually write all this content out. Okay. So we have in the about section here these, we're going to be using Flexbox to do two different columns here. On the left side, we have the information, some information you can put about your company right here with these logos from Font Awesome. Then we have more of these illustrations, and it's kind of the same thing for two other sections. We just have more about us content and then one more section down here. Moving on, we have our services. Now, these are going to reflect, like I said, a media company. So we have digital marketing, branding, and when you hover over these, you can see they have a cool animation where they kind of pop up a little bit. So we'll be doing that. And once again, this will be done using Flexbox. Most of the website is done using Flexbox. And then one or two things we're going to be using the grid. And then we have a why choose us section here with just some more basic information. This is all Flexbox, and then we have more Flexbox down here saying how many clients, projects, support hours, and all that kind of stuff. Now, for the portfolio, we will be using the grid for this, and you can see when we hover over this, we have a smooth transition to some information about the photo. Obviously, nothing really here because this is a demo site, and once again, didn't want to fill in the content for this. Moving along here, we have a testimonial section. Now, we will be using the plugin I'll Carousel for this. So this is actually really easy to implement, and it adds a lot of dynamic to your site. You can have a really cool carousel with all your testimonials pop in here. And that's pretty much it for that section. Nothing really too fancy about that. And then we have our team, which if you hover over the images, you'll see a name pops up with the position that they do at the company. And this is all achieved just using basic Flexbox and a margin top property. So when you hover over this, the margin top goes to 0, and it looks like it's kind of coming up like this. Moving on here, we have our client section, just a simple transition over our transformation when you hover over it, that the image gets enlarged a little bit to make it look like it's coming at you. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then here's a contact us section. Now this actually works. So if we actually enter some information here, such as my first name here, and we'll just do John Homer Nikki, if I can spell my name right, and we do subject, we'll just do testing, and we'll do testing here. If I actually submit this, it will go to Firebase, and once it actually finishes, it'll come over here and give us this nice submission message saying that thank you for your submission. We'll be back in touch within 48 or 20 to 48 hours. Okay. And if I just refresh that, we'll get rid of that. And then we have a basic footer down here, which does the same thing as a navigation. If we click on team, it'll smooth scroll back up to the team section. And like I mentioned before earlier, this is a responsive website. So you can see everything adjust accordingly to the size of the viewport. So if we get, I think, past like 900 or 1,000, it kind of goes back to the desktop version. Under that, things start to collapse and stuff like that. And then we also have a navigation bar over here, and you can click out of that by clicking the X in the top corner. So that is what we're going to be building. So let's head over to VS Code and get started. Okay, so here in VS Code, if you want to follow along with everything pre-configured, go ahead and download the repo that's in the description, and everything should match as I have it right here from the start. Now, before we go ahead and do anything, you might see we have a folder for CSS, which is our style.css sheet right here, and then also a folder for SCSS, and we have a style.scss sheet. So we're going to be using SCSS for this project. Now I'm going to be using a SCSS compiler by the name of Scout App right here, okay? So if you have never used a SCSS compiler before, there's a ton out there. I'm just going to be using Scout App, so if you want to go ahead and download and follow along and do exactly what I'm doing, I'll go ahead and drop the link down below in the description. So you come here to scoutapp.io, come and download it right here, and it's as simple as that. Okay. So heading back over to the GUI, we need to go ahead and do a few things before we can start this project. So as you can see here, I have the full website, which is the demo version, which is running right now, and we have new biz, which is not. So how you add a project is you can go ahead and click this right here and find the parent directory of wherever your code is at. I've already went ahead and done that. So what we need to do next is select the input and the output folder. So by default, normally it will automatically find the SCSS as the input folder and the CSS as the output, but sometimes you have to go ahead and do it manually. And how you can do that is you click on the folder here, and you can see we want it to be here, and we're going to select this as our input folder, and then we want to go our output folder for our CSS. So there we go. And there's a few other settings we can do down here. We have development or production. So this will compress your code so that it's compiled and takes up less lines. And we can also do development, and we can have nested. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do for the development, just to kind of show you how this works. So if we come over here to our style.css sheet and I do a simple reset to start here, we can do margin 0, padding 0, and we're going to do a box sizing of border box. Now, if I save this, we should go over to our SCSS and see that we don't have anything in here, and that is probably because I made a mistake and I didn't actually click the start. So what you need to do to start compiling it is hit the play button. And once you do that, it will automatically, upon save, put the SCSS over here into the style.css sheet. So let's go ahead and do another example. Say I delete the box sizing, and we go and hit save, and you should hear that in the background. It makes a little alert sound. Now if I come back over here, you can see that now the box sizing is removed. Okay, so now that we have this set up, let's go ahead and start with the navigation and the header for our website. Okay, now that we have configured and set up our SCSS compiler, let's go ahead and begin with our website. So if we head over to the demo, you can see we're going to start here at the very top with our navigation/header. So let's head back to our index.html. So let's actually get our basic boilerplate set up here. So I'm going to use Emmet, and we're going to go ahead and generate our basic HTML template here. Now, a few things I want to go ahead and include here from the get-go. We need to go ahead and get our Google font. So we are going to be using a Google font by the name of Monistrat, I believe it's called, which is right here. They have 18 styles, and I'm going to go ahead and select the ones we need. So we're going to be using the light 300, regular 4, 5, and 7. Perfect. There we go. Let's go ahead and copy that in and import it to our style sheet over here, or our index.html, I should say. And there we go. And next we need to go ahead and get our Font Awesome library. So we can come over to cdnjs.com and go ahead and copy this link tag and come back over to our sheet. And there we go. So a few things to note, as with all the projects I do here on my channel, I am using the where is it at? The Prettier extension here, and we're also going to be using Live Server to go ahead and run this on a local platform for right now. Okay. Now that we have that, we are pretty much good for right now for this part of the video, or this part of the website, with adding anything in here, and we can begin doing our style sheet, or sorry, our HTML. So to begin, we're going to be using a header tag. And inside of this header tag, we're going to be using a nav, the nav pseudo, and we're going to give it a class of container. Okay. And inside here, we need to have two different sections. So what we'll end up doing is making this nav class be flex so that we have them in a row. So what we're going to want to do here is we're going to have an A tag to hold our icon in. And now where I have the icons are actually right here in the repository under image, and we have the logo.png. So how we can get to that is do image slash and just do logo png. Okay. And next we want to do our actual navigation. So we're going to put a UL here and give this a class of links. And inside of here, we're going to go ahead and do some li elements with some anchor tags. So let's go ahead and just copy and paste this down a few times. Let's do 3, 4, and 5. Okay. And for now, we're going to leave these as just a hash symbol, and we'll come back later once we get the section set up to do we're going to associate these with certain parts of our website that we have different sections associated with it. So for the first tag, we're going to use a home and about us. We have services. Let's go back up here. We have team, and then we have contact us. All right. And that is the basic HTML for our heading tag, or for our header and our navigation. So let's go ahead and spin up our live server. So how we can do this is we can right click on our index.html once that plugin is installed and simply open live server. So obviously things right now are not looking good. So let's head over to our style sheet and start to style this up. Okay, so before we go ahead and do any styling, I just realized we did not link up our style sheet and our head tag when we went ahead and did the setup. So let's go ahead and do that. Otherwise, our styles will not actually take effect. So let's go ahead and do a link tag here and go into our CSS folder and then link up our style.css. Now, with that all complete, we can head over to our style.scss and begin to style up our headers. So to begin, I'm going to copy and paste in some basic defaults that we're going to be using throughout the project. So I'll quickly go over these. So we have a font family. So we're going to be targeting the whole entire project here with this asterisk, and we're going to give it a font family of Monostrat. We're going to be using a margin 0, padding 0, and a box sizing, a border box to reset everything. And then we also have a scroll behavior of smooth, which is going to be for the smooth scrolling we're going to be using on the anchor tags. When we go ahead and get to that at the end of this series, we'll go ahead and hook all that up once we have all the sections in. Moving on, we have our UL, which is set to list style none. Our A tags, our anchor tags, we have a text decoration to none. And then we have some basic styling for our H2s, 3s, and 4s. So pretty much just some basic stuff here. Font weight, font size, color, margin bottom, all that stuff. So some very basic stuff here. Not really going to go over this too much. If you want to, you can pause this and you can copy this in. So moving on, let's head down to our header. So I'm going to use a comment here to call this header. We'll call it nav. And what we want to do is we're going to target the header pseudo class we gave this. And to make this a little easier to follow along, let's split this to the left and close this. So we're going to be targeting, excuse me, this header tag right here. And then we want to give this a height of 79 pixels. And we're going to give this a position of fix. Now we're doing this because we want the header to stay at the very top the entire time, so we can achieve this by giving this a position fix. Now we want to go ahead and give this a width of 100% to fill in the available space, otherwise it will not. And then we want to also give this a z-index of 3, and we're using 3 because we're not going to have too many things that will be overlapping the header, so giving it a z-index of 3 for this project works perfectly. Now you could go ahead and give this a z-index of 99 so that no matter what you do, it'll be on top, but I know that we're not going to be having anything that's going to overlap it in a z-index of 3, so that's why I chose that. And then let's go ahead and give this a background color of white, and let's see here. We're going to go ahead and give this a box shadow to give it a little bit of separation from all the other sections when we're scrolling throughout our project here. So we're going to say a box shadow of 0 pixels, 0 pixels, 30 pixels, and we're going to do an RGBA, and we're going to go ahead and get rid of this stuff right here. We don't need it. And we're going to go ahead and put our own information here. So we're going to do 127, 137, 161, and 0.03 opacity. Okay, and what did we do wrong there? Oh, we forgot the ending parenthesis. Okay, so if we save this and take a peek at how it looks now, you can see that we have a nice box shadow here separating it from the page. So some of the sections will be white, so that's why I wanted to do this, so it has a nice separation. But we still need to do some more styling here to get it to look like this. So first thing we want to do is we want to target the nav here. So what we're going to say is, since we're using SCSS, we don't have to do, so normally in regular CSS, if you want to just target the nav element or only that nav element, you could do header, nav, and then put your styling in here. But with SCSS, we can just go ahead and nest, is what they call it, that nav tag inside of this header, and we can do this. Okay. So from here, we want to go ahead and display this nav as flex, which is going to put it into a row by default, which is what we're looking for. And we want to align the items in the center and then give it some padding around the sides of 25 pixels and 10 pixels. Okay, so if we save that and take a peek, you'll see that now these are side by side in a row. So that is looking how we want it. Now, inside of this nav, we can do some more nesting. So now we want to say inside of this nav, we have an image right here. So let's go ahead and do this, or give this image some styling to make it a little smaller. So we want to give this image a height of 25 pixels. Now, when we do that, you'll see that it looks a lot better, but it's still blowing out of the container because this UL is not displayed as flex, and it's not doesn't have enough room since we gave this this header a fixed height of 79. So let's go ahead and fix that. So if we head over to our style sheet here, and inside the nav, we're going to target the UL. Now, we gave this a class of links, and we don't necessarily need this now that I think about it. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that to keep it simple. And we're going to go ahead and just target the UL in here. And let's go ahead and save that. Now, inside here, we want to go ahead and we're going to do a little bit of styling for the mobile navigation now so that it doesn't blow out of the container when we start to shrink the viewport of the website. So I'll go ahead and by default, we're going to go ahead and display this as none. So if we come back in here now, we don't have any of those UL elements. Now, we're going to be using a media query here. And what I found worked best was when we use @media and min width, so we're going to be using a mobile first approach here. When we use a min width of 800 pixels, so we're saying once the viewport hits 800 pixels, these styles can take effect, and we want to go ahead and change the display to flex. So now if I go back here, you should see now they're in a row and they are displaying as flex, which is what we want. Now, inside of here, we also want to do a few more styling. So we want to go ahead and set this to flex 1. So it takes up the entire space available, and this has the remaining space available for the image. So pretty much what's going to happen here is, since we display this as flex, the UL will take up all the space necessary and leave the leave room only for the image. And then if we go ahead and do justify content flex end, and we go ahead and take a peek at that, now the content should be on the right hand side, which is what we're looking for. But as you can see, the content is taking up the full width of the space available, and we need to go ahead and set our container up, which we haven't yet. So I'm actually not going to do that inside of here. We're going to be using this container in multiple spots. So we're going to go ahead and do a thing called utility, UTIL, utility classes, if I can spell. Okay. And in here, we're going to go ahead and set our container up because we want to use this container in more than one spot. And this is the easiest way to do it, is using a utility class so that we can go ahead and use that class container, and it will be available to use no matter what section we are in. So we're going to give this a max width of 1440 pixels, and set the margin to 0 auto. So now if we go ahead and take a peek at this, it should now be restricted and look identical to our demo, which is great. So now we need to go ahead and do some styling here on these link tags. So let's go ahead and head back to our style sheet and do just that. So inside of our UL, let's go ahead and actually nest our A tag in here. Since we don't want to have our A tag right here affected, we can do some more additional nesting. Now, you normally don't want to get too deep into nesting things, but in this case, it's going to be necessary so that we only target the anchor tags inside of this UL. Now, if we took this out here and we said any A tag inside of the nav, then this image tag or this anchor tag with the image would be affected, and we don't want that to happen. So that's why we're going to be doing it like I had it right here inside of the UL. And we want to do a color of 004289, which is going to be a nice blue. We're going to give this a font size a little bit smaller, 14 pixels. A font weight of 500 to give it a little bit more of a thicker font style than the default. We're going to give this a padding of 0 and 15 pixels, and then a margin left of 15 pixels to separate it just a little bit more. Now, if I save this and we head over here, you can see now we have a pretty much identical header to our demo. So if I go ahead and inspect this and we shrink it down, you can see that now we don't have those link tags on anything lower than 800. So we will go ahead and address the mobile navigation later on in this series, but for now we are done with the headers. So in the next video, we're going to go ahead and cover the hero section of our website.